And welcome to a very special edition of An Hour with the Kennedys on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party. Dan Fishman, executive producer. My name is Pat Ford, and I currently serve as the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island, as well as the chair of the newly insurgent Joe Jorgensen campaign for the state of Rhode Island, the newly on the ballot campaign. Very special edition of LPTV tonight. We're on the road. We are in Burnsville, Minnesota. Now, that name may sound familiar to you. And of course, we're at the home of, if you will, Cair Schultz, who is also a town councilor for the great city of Burnsville. But joining us tonight, and we are literally in his rec room at the height of a great campaign event. By the way, folks, cold beer, pulled pork, egg rolls, it's all here. It's if there's still time to catch a flight, why don't you join us tonight? But joining us tonight for the very first time is Chris Clavier. He's a fireman, he's a community activist, and most importantly, he's a libertarian. And he's a libertarian running to be the mayor of Burnsville, Minnesota. A real opportunity here exists, if you will, to make this the most libertarian town in America. Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to pan a little bit, or Dan, if you could pan a little bit. We've got a crowded backyard. Some comedians are going to be joining us probably in the next half hour or so. Folks from around the country showed up here today. There's a Libertarian National Committee meeting here in Minneapolis tomorrow and Sunday. That'll be streamed live as well. But everyone from the chairman to LNC at-large members and officers gathered today with Chris to go out into the streets, the city, the mean streets, if you will, of Burnsville, Minnesota, to spread the word about an important young candidate who has already given so much to this community. Let's start from the very beginning. We always ask folks this every time you're on the show. What was your libertarian moment? When did you have that light bulb go over your head?
And I'm not trying to over dramatize the moment, but when I was in the military, when I was in Iraq, there's a lot of downtime, a lot of time to think. And I thought, I was a young Republican, I will admit.
Okay.
I was a young Republican, but I've always been socially progressive. And I've always leaned towards it, but it wasn't ever something that I thought was a real pressing political issue until I was in Iraq and I realized some of my friends are here again, and some of them will not get the same treatment as a married man would, a straight married man, because they can't legally get married. And how terrible is that? And I cannot associate myself with an affiliation that would try to stop that marriage from happening, that union from happening. And then after that, that just opened the can of worms. Now we got this issue, that issue. Why can't veterans who are going home smoke marijuana instead of getting drunk or find therapy through cannabis or whatever have you, mushroom therapy, whatever? Why are we so closed off of these ideas? And I realized the fiscally conservative part that I was attached to in the Republican Party was a small part of it, but they were running at the time, this was early 2000s, they were running such a social war. Such a war on the. They were running such a war on the progressive social side of things, and I just couldn't. It's sickening me.
Right.
And then of course we all have our issues with the Democratic Party and their big government ways and their gun grabbing ways and stuff like that. So I couldn't go that way. So I looked left, I looked right. I didn't know where to go. Looked straight forward. Luckily, I lived in the age of the internet where I started asking questions. Hey, where do I go? Where do I fit in? Somebody said, you sound like a libertarian to me. I said, well, shouldn't the I argued for a little bit, shouldn't the Republicans be about small government, keep the government out of life? Why do we even care who's married to who? Why is marriage a government issue? And I said, hey, and every time I asked a question, I got, you sound like a libertarian. You sound like a libertarian. Then the Ron Paul movement came, and I saw, honestly, you guys have been active for so long. We've been active for so long. I drove by during a National Guard weekend, and I drove by and I saw all these people just hold out these signs that said "Revolution" with love highlighted. And at first I thought, oh, okay, who are these hippies? What are they doing? Then I looked into it and I said, these hippies think like I do. I'm a hippie too, apparently. And I got into it, and man, I just bought it. I just bit into it, and it was delicious.
Freedom's an amazing dinner.
And it's addictive.
Absolutely, you come back again and again and again.
And there weren't pretentious people in the party.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't people telling you how you need to think, how you need to do it. Do you agree on every front? And as I got into forums, early days, remember forums?
Yep.
And into now, where you have Reddit, Our Libertarian, and there's healthy debate. Facebook, maybe not so healthy all the time.
Yeah.
But nobody argues with libertarian more than other libertarian. And that actually made me say, hey, this is a good party. Because nothing breeds success and innovation like competition. And as long as we're willing to, it's like a family challenging each other, right? Somebody from the outside steps in, hey, you don't get to pick on them. That's my person.
You can't do that to our pledges. Only we can do that to our pledges.
Right. Only we can say you're not a libertarian. But, and I just like everything about the party. I'm going to be honest. I grew up a punk rock kid. And it feels a lot like the punk rock community. It feels like we all grew up. We all threw on a polo shirt now and again. Mm-hmm. We dressed the part here and there. But when we let our hair down, it's the same culture.
And there is a great, by the way, I'm sure you've been there, but have you been to Punk Rock Libertarians?
Yes.
One of the great shows in the libertarian media movement.
Yep. It's and they run a very active Facebook page, and I really appreciate everything they've done too, because it just speaks to the culture of the party. It is, the days of considering punk rockers as the outsiders is done. It's over. Right? Mm-hmm. Punk rockers vote too. I got a sticker on my Jeep upstairs. The skaters vote too.
Excellent. The theme song for my old show was an anti-flag song, so it doesn't matter how old we are. Now you've given a lot of your life to public service.
All of it.
You've served in our nation's military. Mm-hmm. You served overseas in combat. Mm-hmm. You came back home. Mm-hmm. You've served as a firefighter in St. Paul now for how long?
15 years.
Wow. Take a moment here. For folks listening in the future, today is the 19th anniversary of 9/11. And I salute your service because I spent a significant portion of my life working in the World Trade Center in New York. All right. So unless you've seen that moment through your friends or yourself, I wasn't there that day. I was there the first time it was attacked, just a few blocks away. When you see firemen walking into that which others, mere mortals, would run from, it's an astonishing commitment to public service. But you weren't content to stop there. You've continued. You're active in the community politically. Talk to us about your service to the community in terms of the economic Commerce Corporation, if you will, that you serve with.
The Economic Development Commission, I've been on there for a few years now. I was active in looking towards why our communities seem to have a lot of restrictions, a lot of ordinances, and they were even getting into my life, trash can ordinances here and there. You can have your house look like this, but not this. Why does that new brewery look just like the business next door? Why is this? And Councilwoman Schultz, who we all know and love, she was the one who responded to me. I said, hey, who are you? Oh, you're a libertarian. Fantastic. Okay, I get why you're responding to me. And she said, well, unfortunately, we have a lot of ordinances in this town that are trying to make the whole city look like a mini mall. They want to homogenize everything. So that's terrible.
And you actually have people driving around town doing ordinance enforcement.
Well, this is where it got to. I'm frustrated. I'm in my yard picking up sticks, pulling weeds, doing yard guy stuff. And a Prius pulls up, and he sits there and takes notes. He pulls up to the next house, takes some notes, drives to the next house. Walks up to his window and knock on his window. I said, I'm kind of confrontational. And I said,
excellent.
I said, hey, I got to ask you what you're doing. I said, are you a serial killer? Are you a burglar? What are you doing? He says, I'm with the city, and rolls his window back up.
No, that's so easy.
I said, what are you doing with the city? I'm looking for code violations. What kind of code violations? He points at my neighbors had a pallet leaned up against their house that they were used for a project. He said, that kind of code violation. In fact, we could see your trash cans because it was fall and the bush I had died. He said, that's a violation too. He said, you'll be hearing from the city. And I just didn't want to have time of day when we took off. I said, we're paying, how much are we paying? I started beating down the door. How much are we paying this guy? How much is that car he was driving around in? How much are we spending on him imposing on my life, telling me what I can and can't do with my property? Well, sir, let me put your mind at ease because he's a volunteer. That's worse.
What type of individual volunteers to drive around in a Prius, no less?
You've got whatever you can do whatever you want in America on this given day. And you choose to go pick on people in there.
It was a Karen before we had Karens.
Bingo. So I went down and I said, this is gross. This is, I can't, I'm not a wordsmith enough to put it into exact terms. This is what I'm saying all the time, but I said, it's gross and it's un-American, and that's all you really need to know about the whole thing.
The spectacle of Americans spying on Americans for some sort of visceral pleasure that they're going to have by, we call it where I'm from, dropping a dime on somebody, old school. You drop the dime in the phone, you make the phone call. Yep. It's unfortunate because that's taken on a larger resonance right now with the dread COVID. You've got, where I live in Rhode Island, for example, the governor setting up hotlines so that people can tell on other neighbors.
Yeah.
Nothing is more divisive to a community than that.
And nothing brings you more joy than find out people trolling those numbers. We shopped around in honestly over 100 homes because I didn't want to live in an HOA. I'm not a person who likes paying money to be told how to live my life. Right. And people who do like that, nothing against you. You like having organization. You like having predictability, whatever. And you know what? It's not government involved. HOAs don't involve the government for the most part. So hey, that's how you like to live? Go live in your neighborhood. But I intentionally chose to not live in an HOA because I don't want somebody telling me what to do with my property. Mm-hmm. So now when I have a volunteer snitch showing up, making me feel like I live in an HOA, we got a problem.
Oh, that leapt out at the page for me when I was doing some reading.
And if my elected officials aren't going to do anything to address this problem and restore freedom, well, damn it, I will. Mm-hmm. I'll take your job and I will restore those freedoms in this town. Now, there was some backlash and there was some push about trash can ordinance, signage ordinance, and they have been being changed. But after some serious rabble-rousing in City Hall. Do you know have you ever been, I know you have, but to the people listening, have you ever been to a City Hall meeting, a city council meeting? It's intimidating. You have to sign up. You have to do this right. You have to do that right. You have to show up at the right time. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready for them to hear you and then give you all the excuses of why you're wrong and the authority's right. Again, back to that punk rock thing. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Because we said so. And here's this doom and gloom scenario that we're gonna overplay, and we're gonna tell you that us enforcing you to live how we feel fit is the right way to do it. And I'm not gonna stand for that. I'm not gonna stand there and listen to that. I don't believe it. I'm too old and I'm too mature to know that that's the way to do things.
Yeah, that these meetings are structured. That's a great point. They're structured so as to minimize any real interaction.
I'll tell you what we do to fix that. Every public meeting so far, if it has a structure of authority, it's that the public comes in to sit down. And when the elected official, the appointed official comes in, what do they say? All rise. Right?
Yeah.
Here comes the king, here comes the sheriff of Nottingham, whatever. And everyone rise for the authority figure. How about this? If I had full authority, and in the city when I do win the mayorship, when we walk in, the people are seated. We walk in first and we sit down. And then we open the doors to the public. When we open those doors, we say, all rise. 5 of us stand up. Once they're all seated, once they're all comfortable, once they give us the go ahead, we're allowed to sit down and start our meeting because they're in charge.
Right.
The people who elected us are in charge. If judges, senators, congressmen, everybody started doing that and started standing there and waiting for the people to come in, and every last person taking a seat, that really sends a message right off the bat of who's in charge and who's the employee and who's the employer in this situation.
Now, let's talk about Burnsville a little bit because in the next step in your, if you will, the education that you've been going through over a number of years was your appointment to essentially the Economic Development Commission. Mm-hmm. What are the most pressing issues right now? First of all, tell us a little bit about Burnsville, and discuss its voter base, what type of employment, what type of industry. Give us kind of a snapshot of the town.
I'd like to correct you first of all. There's no mean streets of Burnsville. It's a nice town. We've been out door knocking today.
I was being facetious.
I know. This is no, but it is a nice town. It was it's established as a suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul, back when people used to drive into work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a community that is divided in that you have people like me who moved in here for proximity to the Twin Cities. They moved here for work. Nice town, good split of the interstates, good county roads, and there's a few things to do around here. But you get a lot of house for the money. Everything's for the most part pretty cozy. But we're budding into being a city in itself. Remember the American Music Awards?
Right.
Lizzo's performance, where she had those giant booties. No, those were all made in Burnsville. We have an indoor go-kart track.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 gun ranges. We have restaurants that are locally owned that people will come from all over the metro area to come visit. What we don't have in this city, though, is somebody championing for everybody. Somebody who is being a true representative of the city and saying, this is why you want to come to Burnsville. Burnsville in itself is a standalone community. Burnsville, if there was no other metropolis to draw from, the people of Burnsville and the industry in Burnsville could do it ourselves. But we could do it better. We could do it better if we had less restrictions and less ordinances that are holding everybody down, and if we played less favoritism in our politics. We could see even more exponential growth in this area. We have really smart people in Burnsville. We have, but we don't have what we don't have in Burnsville is a lot of land to develop.
Mm-hmm.
What we do have is a mall, like every other mall in the country, that's starting to see its last days. Our mall is under foreclosure. The center of it is under foreclosure. The cornerstones are owned by other businesses. The current population of politicians that sits there is either on the fence. I'm speaking generalities here, but there's some people who definitely see eye to eye with me. But they see we have to give this away at a TIF zone. We have to make a TIF district out of this area to make this work. And if you're not familiar, look up tax increment finance zones. It's a debt. And I just had a meeting last week with the Economic Development Commission. I said, we do not need a TIF zone for this mall. We have no property to develop in this area. And with everybody shuffling and readjusting due to COVID, due to riots, whatever, we have a huge landmass and a structurally sound building that people could move into. That's for sale. It's under foreclosure. Let the free market come in and dictate what's going to happen. A developer will come in with their brilliance and put an industry in that area. And if they don't, we need to capitalize it, and we need to shop around for a good, viable solution. Not another mall, not another shopping center. Let's not look again to shopping centers until who knows what happens. It's going to have to change retail to go back to walking in and shopping again. But that's not the future. So let's stop barking up that tree.
Yeah, the TIFs are the devil. They are absolutely the devil.
And they're the devil through the back door.
Right. It's the ultimate example of, if you will, privatizing profit and socializing risk.
Mm-hmm.
And the notion that you take this district and you collect, in some cases, all the sales tax from this district as if they're directly tied to that one single investment and use that to service debt, it's corporate welfare. Mm-hmm. You're pulling the free market out of the local marketplace. Mm-hmm. You're subsidizing individual businesses. It's almost cliche at this point, but you're picking winners and losers. It's everything we stand against.
And how often do you see a mom and pop business get TIF benefits?
No.
How often do you see a homeowner get TIF benefits? I know cities, Burnsville one of them, we need more housing in Burnsville. We're booming, right? But we're not doing TIF zoning for housing. I don't get a tax break on my house. I grew up in the entrepreneurial world. My mom came here from Osan, Korea, married my dad, who's in the Air Force. She didn't speak. Her English is probably at the time was probably at second, third grade level, but her drive, her ambition, her work ethic were on a Harvard level, and she made it work. But you know how many breaks she got from the government?
0.0.
In anything, how she got told you're an immigrant who doesn't speak English. We're not going to even have the time of day. More often than not. She made it well. Now, who do we give TIF breaks to? Who do we give that corporate welfare to? People who already have $300 million to invest into an area. People who are already established and already made it. They get all the corporate welfare. And if their plan doesn't work, what happens to that TIF zone over 25 years? We're paying for it. We're all paying for it. So why would we want this? And over again, I get the people who are rank and file, the status quo people that go, it's just a tool in the toolbox. We can make it a TIF zone. You know what? If I got a house project, I don't go to Home Depot and buy every tool in the shop and put it on a credit card and go, well, I hope I might need this someday, right? And I'll pay the interest and I'll pay the debt on it.
Don't you know it's the way things are done?
And that's another problem we have. So many times, if they can't come up with a reasonable argument about why they need to back off of their policies, they'll go, this is the way it's done. This is the way it works. You don't understand because of your lack of experience. No, you don't understand because you got too comfortable in your office. You've gotten too comfortable in that chair, and you've been there since the mid-90s, the 80s. And you need to start understanding that this is a whole new world. Gen X is a whole new different generation. Millennials are now grown up. Millennials are sick of getting picked on, too. They're a vengeful generation.
I'm on the edge of boomer / millennial. But let me ask you about economic development.
Yeah.
One of my favorite questions. For whom should economic development work for? In the case of a city like Burnsville, the generations of families who've been here, who built a community, or should it be for outside investors who take advantage of faraway tax schemes? In this case, for example, the Trump administration is taking this positive capital gains treatment, giving it to areas that are deemed blighted. And once again, you've got large developers coming in from outside the community. So should development be supportive of?
Well, once again, who's getting the benefit? The people who already have the money, they already have the establishment. The guy out there who's grinding 18 hours a day, who doesn't get to see his family, doesn't get to do, or gal, in my family's case, who doesn't get to spend time with their family and misses out on a lot and misses out on sleep and everything else, they don't get the benefit, do they? The person working the hardest not getting the benefits, and the person who's already established getting the benefits, that's all backwards. And that's how it's currently going, because that's the way it's always been done.
And this is an example I use a lot on the show. It can get even worse. You've got the real prospect in situations like this, where existing taxpayers are basically using their taxes to subsidize their competition for the consumer dollar. And once we as libertarians explain that to folks, number one, on a moral level, the notion of using force to take money and redistribute it to another person for their personal profit. Right?
I got an example for you from my spot on the Economic Development Commission. I take a lot of pride in this. I don't take a lot of pride in a lot of things. I've literally done things in the fire service that are once in a lifetime opportunities, and I don't think anything other than I was just in the right place at the right time. But I will tell you on the EDC, Economic Development Commission, I sat there in a meeting. My very first meeting, they proposed that they wanted to impose a new permit and license on massage studios, hair and nail salons. What do you know about massage studios, hair and nail salons as far as the demographics that usually start those up?
Usually younger.
First generation immigrants, right? So I said, why are you attacking a group of people whose English skills might be limited? I mean, you can see where I'm taking this from a personal standpoint because of the world I grew up in. So why are you attacking first generation immigrants? Why are you imposing another $300 fee on them, or whatever your price point we can talk about, but whatever it is? Why are you imposing that on them? Well, it's to combat human trafficking.
Oh,
excuse me. You're going to make this family who is trying so hard to make it, you're going to put another hurdle, which what if they miss that permit? It's new, right? And and they're not looking into it. So now they miss it. And hey, willful ignorance, right? We're going to shut you down. And they do pay it. Well, you know what? I know what it's like to be that kid in the beginning of a budding business, right? With a first generation military. That $300 might be my Christmas present. It goes from a real Christmas present that gets me excited to a Christmas present that's, hey, here's a VHS tape, kid. You know, times are tough this year. That's a real thing. It's running that lean at times, right? So why? Because of the human trafficking? You've got a stereotype in your head
Right.
from the 70s and 80s that you're going to try to you're going to use that to try to justify, you're going to use racism to try to justify a permit? No, I'm not having it. And I argued. I clapped back hard at that one. And they said, well, with a smug tone on their face, well, lucky for you, we've already polled the massage studios, hair and nail salons in Burnsville, and they overwhelmingly agree with wanting this permit. Yeah. I said, there's no way. There's no freaking way that's true. So I took a notebook. I downloaded Google Translate. And I went to and I went on Google Maps and I typed in massage studio. Massage. I typed in massage. And I went to every single massage studio in Burnsville. And I asked them in their native language to Google Translate, do you want another permit to help combat human trafficking? Now, here's one thing I wasn't ready for. How many new immigrants will not talk to government officials? Because they know they can opt out and they know that where they came from, the government is never there to help you.
Right.
And so they would choose to decline to answer. So I put neutral. And if they and a lot of them said also, no, why would we want another permit to pay for? Not a surprise, right? One massage studio in Burnsville that was very well off. Fountain when you walk in, a nice staff of college kids, right, that meet you at the front desk. They said, yeah, we think that human trafficking might be a problem in Burnsville, and we'd like to see that fought.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
It's because they want that barrier to entry.
Right.
They want to put all the other ones out of business.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we're talking about. Who gets the benefits from the government?
Right.
That already established people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I found out. So I brought it to Councilman Schultz. I said, hey, here's my notes. When you talk about this permit, you can feel free to use what I found. And her face lit up like I just gave her a present on her birthday. She was, you did all this? You bet. What else I got to do all day? And you know what? When I got appointed to the Economic Development Commission, I took that shit seriously. Sorry, you can't swear on your.
You can. It's okay.
You can swear like a.
So I said, I went to businesses and just walked in and said, hey, I'm Chris Klavetter. I'm newly appointed to the Economic Development Commission. What can we do, or what can we take away to make your life easier, to make running a business easier? A lot of them were just caught off guard. Hey, I'll have to email you. I don't know right now. You know, no problem. But I took it seriously. When I had massage studio thing, I came through and I hit it hard. And you find out that they were playing favorites. They were playing favorites, and they weren't even being shy about it, right? That person who told me those lies, they resigned not too long after. So I felt a big win, and I felt, shit, this is doable.
I want to wind in campaigning the process with this part of the conversation. How critical is it, number one, to be involved with community government before you run for high levels of community government? Number two, those type of listening skills where you develop relationships with the folks in the community so that they understand that you're coming to them for advice, that you're coming to them for information, you're coming to them for that kind of boots on the ground perspective that's difficult to do in every aspect of life, of every aspect of business. How important are those in the run-up to running for something as critically important to community as town council or mayor? And I'll take it even one step further. You know, we have a lot of great people running for very high office in this nation. But I will tell you, in terms of being a libertarian, that you have the potential to have more impact, right, on the community and on the libertarian movement running for this type of office. So how does this all mix in together?
I'm going to go backwards in these steps here, but you're right. Federally, we all like to fight about federal level politics. Who's your U.S. rep? Who is the president, etc., right? Your day-to-day freedoms are more dictated by your locally elected officials than anything else. They have more influence on what happens in your day-to-day life than any other type of politician. And they are it is very easy to give them a real run for their money in office. Now, how important is it to be involved in commissions, into local level politics? Very. One thing I wish I would have done more of, going out to community events and just playing the kiss the baby, shaking hands type of game, But I'm a modest guy. I'm loud. I'm aggressive. But I am, at the end of the day, I don't think I'm any better than any other person walking this earth. I've been proven plenty of times that there's plenty of people talented above me who know more than me, and I can learn plenty from them. So it brings me, it humbles. And learning how to walk in those steps and getting into the Economic Development Commission, getting into the Planning Commission, even to Parks and Rec, they'll teach you a lot of things about people who are really active in the community and what they care about. And you'll find a lot of common ground. And you'll find a lot of where they get together for their social hours to talk to people in the community. There's a lot of community activists in every town. And when you get into these commissions, when you get into this community activism and this real early level, you meet a lot of them and you start establishing what the feel of the city is. You might find out that your city is not leaning libertarian, that they might be very pro-Republican, pro-Democrat. And you can start building bridges on how libertarians are like this way for this.
But that's a perfect segue, because we have here an elected official from Burnsville, Minnesota, who could come in and talk about it. So tell us first about how you first met Cair Schultz.
Well, so Cair Schultz, as I pointed out earlier about me griping about local issues, and then secondly, I saw that she wasn't on the ballot because it's every 4 years, and in the 2-year intermediate, another city council person ran, Vince Workman, and he had Libertarian next to his name. I said, "Hey, I saw another Libertarian on the ticket. Congratulations." I go, "I hope that doesn't mean you're out there just replacing you, in 2 years you're gonna be gone or whatever." She said, "No, I'm in this. I'm in this for the long haul." But yeah, we got Vince on board, and said, "Well, it'd be nice to see a third person on city council who'd be a libertarian, because then you have a majority. Maybe I'll be next. Maybe I'll be next. LOL. Ha ha ha. Who am I?" She said, "Well, let's get talking. Let's meet for coffee. Let's get talking." I said, "I'm not. No, She goes, "You'd be surprised. Let's just meet for coffee."
And so here we have aforementioned
the hero.
Oh, wow.
You know what? You are something else. You don't even know.
Oh, I'm something.
Yeah, it's you've been on my show. Talk about, if you will, not only being the first libertarian really to serve in this capacity within this region, but what it's meant to bring other people on, and what's that message that's sent to local folks about how it is to work with libertarians in government. Notice how I say not could be governed by, but how it is to walk alongside of libertarians in municipal government.
Yeah, because it is a partnership. So, I decided to run for city council because Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray came around and they said, we want people to run for local office. And so a bunch of us ran in 2007 or 2014 for local city council. And we had a couple libertarians in Crystal. I ran in Burnsville. We had another one running in another city. And we just we gave it everything because, we really listened to that message of local government impacts you the most. That is where government touches every aspect of your life. It's where you can put your garbage can. It's how much your property tax is. It just touches every part of your life. And they said that's where we need to show how libertarians, are in government, how they can be that partnership. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I ran my heart out in 2014. And I knocked every door and just poured my heart into it. And we did have 2 libertarians elected on Crystal City Council, and they got on board, and I didn't. But I was so close. I was so close. And so I decided, all right, you know what? I'm keeping all of my notes. I'm going to write down what I did well, what I need to change, things I wish I did sooner, things that I just wasted time on. I'm doing this in 2016. And so I did. And when I ran in 2016, I executed my plan and I just stayed very focused on it because it's a grind. It's a grind for like 8 months. And I stayed very focused on it. And when I won, not only was it an amazing thing, but I also realized like that was just the first step. It wasn't campaigning. That wasn't the first step. Like winning was like the first step. And so I realized once a libertarian is elected, the very next thing that they need to focus on is how do you extend that hand to other libertarians and bring them on board? How do you get them onto, the different citizen councils and boards? How do you get them elected next to you? How do you find out all of these different appointed positions and bring libertarians on board? Because that's what we also need to look at. Yes, you're still trying to learn your role and learn how to be a partner in government, but you really need to focus on extending that hand. And that's something we need to get a little better at. And so when I extended that hand, first it was to Vince and to get him on board. And that was a bit of a dogfight. But it was successful because a libertarian message really is desired. And when you don't have, where people are flashing gang signs, we're in a nonpartisan office, people are listening to your message and whether they like the message or not. And so people did like it. They liked it with me. They liked it with Vince. And now they're liking it with Chris. And they're wanting more of that. They're wanting more of those solutions that are not based in coercion or violence or force or I don't care what you think, I'm going to make you do it. They are looking for that partnership because so many of our residents have incredible ideas, wonderful areas of expertise. These people are not stupid. They have something to bring to the table. And when you're an elected official, your real job is to help them bring that to the table.
Yeah, everyone's got their own superpower. And
absolutely
and it's astonishing once given the opportunity to marshal their resources, how much individuals want to be part of the real solution.
They do.
Now, one thing I've been curious about, where I live in Rhode Island, we've had a very strong movement with progressives now for going on about 10 years now. They're essentially taking over the government. What I find fascinating is the juxtaposition between how libertarians, quote unquote, govern. We don't use the word rule. All right. Yeah. And how progressives do. It strikes me that progressives very often, the first challenges they tackle are ones of virtue signaling, of the notion that these are the issues that we want to talk about, as opposed to really running government more efficiently, really getting down to brass tacks, what's important for people. Have you seen that here in Minnesota?
So my view is slightly different. So when I interact with progressives, what I see is partners, because oftentimes libertarians and progressives absolutely agree on what the challenge is.
Right.
We agree with the challenges. We also agree on what the problem is, which is two different things. Like the challenge is where you're trying to move into solving. And the problem is like all these baseline things that are just dragging you down. The difference is oftentimes they haven't heard a solution that isn't based in violence and coercion. And many times they are ethically against coercion and violence, but they're not yet seeing government as coercion and violence. So the challenge for libertarians is to work with your progressive partners and to offer them solutions that really are solutions, that really do address the problem, but they aren't based in force or aggression or coercion or fraud. And when you do that, many times when they hear that solution, they're like, that actually sounds really good. Like, I'm on board with that. When you are basing your solutions in consent culture, they're on board. They're totally on board.
Absolutely. I guess what I was gearing more towards, it seems like our approach is much more geared towards the practical as opposed to the philosophical. But then on the same time, one of the purposes of this show is to discuss what we call lunch pail issues. And affordable housing is certainly one of those. It strikes me that the progressive approach is to simply bond more money, build more houses. Whereas the libertarian approach in government is to try and not interfere with markets so that there's the natural demand for affordable housing can be allowed to take place unfettered by all these artificial intrusions in the marketplace.
Oh, absolutely. So libertarians are looking at creating more naturally occurring affordable housing.
Right.
So that's the area that we're looking at building and having exist throughout. So naturally occurring affordable housing, and really that's the gold standard. Like that's what everyone is chasing. And that's what we have to offer. What the government solution is trying to do this top down like suppression or cap of these very small little areas of affordable housing. And that creates ghettos.
Mhm.
It ghettoizes affordable housing, which is just absolutely awful. It's awful for everyone. It's not good for anyone at all.
And while simultaneously, they're also incentivizing through whether it be TIF financing or affordable house green credits, incentivize interest rates, tax stabilization agreements, all of these things. What they're effectively doing is speaking poetry, if you will, to affordable housing. But what they're really doing is creating incentives for luxury housing, which
They are.
and one starves
They're
the other.
actually driving costs up.
And speaking of costs and expensive, cost money to run for office. And Cair, you're running as well right now, right?
I am running for office. So I am running for re-election, which is exciting.
Is there a website?
There is a website. It's CairSchultz.com. So CARASCHULZ, because there's no T needed. .com. And so you can go to my website and absolutely, yeah, you can definitely donate to my campaign. And yeah, if you find a candidate who is speaking to you, please donate. And I don't care if it's $5. Please just donate. For one thing, I mean, money is the fuel for elections. But the other thing is sometimes you just have a really down day. You're just like, oh my God, like I jumped into this pit of snakes, because that's what it is when you run for election. You are in a pit of snakes. And you're grinding away, and it's day after day after day. And sometimes you get like a $5 donation. And it's someone that just puts like a nice little note on there. And you're just like, you know what? I can do this. Like, I can totally do this. I can door knock for another day.
If a libertarian from Seattle sends you a contribution in Burnsville, Minnesota, that someone radically altered the course of the day because they were thinking about you and the impact that Cair Schultz has had on the libertarian movement.
It's a big deal.
Hmm?
It's absolutely
Letters from home.
a big deal. Yeah, it is letters from home. You have that exactly right. Yeah.
So
I think we want. Do we want to get Joe in on here?
It's perfect. Well, I think we want to bring Chris back in, and if we can get Joe Bishop Henchman, the chair, to come back in
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
Cair, thank you so much for
my
helping
seat
us.
up. Absolutely.
All right. Cair is going to go see if Joe can come in. And Chris gets to do shameless self-promotion.
That's the best part of the show, folks.
First of all, what an outstanding human being.
Oh,
If it wasn't for her tireless energy, I don't know if I'd be here right now.
the obstacles she has overcome politically, as well as others, are just make mortal men weep.
And I will tell you, I've been having mostly neutral to positive feedback, 98% neutral to positive feedback. I wonder how many of those neutrals are neutral because I'm a guy who looks like he can take care of himself, and how many of them, if I was in her position, would have lashed out at it.
It's a challenge.
'Cause I've heard some horror stories from her that weren't so great.
Tough kid.
Yes.
So tell it. We have a segment of the show we call Shameless Self Promotion, and we want you to tell people exactly how they can donate to your campaign. If there are folks here in Minnesota, and who want to volunteer, how they can reach out to you. Folks who want to engage in phone banking remotely, we've got those options. Tell us how folks can help make this the #1 libertarian town in America.
This is where I'm the worst at. shameless self-promotion. But you give me a direction, so I will push forward with it.
Mhm.
If you want to donate, the maximum contribution you can donate is $600. You can find my donation pages through Venmo and GoFundMe on cktoday.org.
Mhm.
You can find links on Facebook. You can find me at Chris Klavetter for mayor on Facebook or my personal account. If you want to help, money helps. Money helps by marketing. This is so much in marketing. I mean, it's largely marketing going on here, guys. And
Let's hit a couple things. How big is Burnsville?
Burnsville, 62,000 people.
62,000 people. So cable ad will cost you about $35 for a 30-second ad. So if somebody wanted to give you $35, you could run a 30-second ad on Fox News. So that's easy.
$35?
Yeah, cable ads, cable TV is super cheap.
I did not know that.
But Facebook ads, right? $5 allows you to send things out. So people want to send you $5, want to send you $35. All those things are going to make a big difference for you.
And if you don't want to send money, send me memes I can use in my campaign. Memes help.
Memes help. Volunteers help.
Volunteers help.
Call banking.
Call banking. Help me door knock if you're local.
Yep.
Help me door. And you know what? At the end of the day, even things like just positive messages that say, "Hey, thanks for fighting for freedom."
Yep.
They help because there's so many days. You know what I think about as I'm falling asleep? Jesus Christ, how am I going to be mayor? How am I going to get the publicity I need? How am I going to get my word out there? How am I going to do this? Tomorrow I've got 17 things I need to do. How am I going to get through the day? Oh my God. You know what I think about when I wake up? Oh shit, this is real. I got to run for mayor today.
Well, the thing that sustains libertarians is other libertarians. And in this case, it's going to be all the people. So speaking of sustaining, a lot of people came out today, knocked doors for you, including
an amazing amount of people
from
one
around
guy
the
who came
country.
in from Washington, D.C., the chairman of the party, Joe Bishop Henchman.
Have a seat. Everybody have a seat. This is family hour.
Well, you
Yeah,
sit
come
right
on.
next here. Chris.
Yeah, come on.
Come in right next
Come on,
to
come on. So, Joe, first of all, you've visited, interacted with, worked for, supported candidacies around the nation at literally every level during your entire experience with the LP. What were your reflections after today? What were you met people out on the trail, door knocked, and by the way, thank you for coming out to Providence and working with us doing petitions. I mean, this is the gut check level of democracy here, doing what you folks did today.
Well, it's very easy to be an LNC chair that you never see and that hides behind a desk and all that. And, I got to do all that work. I spend hours every day after I finish my day job working on LNC matters, but it's also just as important to me that I get out there and help states. So I was excited to come to Rhode Island, help petition drive, and help Pennsylvania in their petition drive, and help do an event in Texas, and then help knock on doors for Chris today. And it's, well, you just heard all about it. It's a two-way race. He's up against an unpopular incumbent. How long has she been mayor?
26 years.
Yeah, and she doesn't seem to be getting much more popular. A lot of people, and you get that direct feedback from people of, look, I'll vote for anybody as long as it's not her. And, I've heard about him. He's good. Give me a yard sign, that kind of stuff. And I think it's an important thing for libertarians to remember is this is how you win elections. It's getting out and talking to voters, getting off of Facebook, at least when you're done watching LPTV,
Right.
And going and doing that.
Just touch on that for a second. We've got 60 days roughly, maybe a little less.
57.
57. Who's counting? Right? Left to the election. If you could, and you're speaking to a significant part of them, but what's your message about shutting off the computer and taking to the streets? Can you think of a time in recent history when the libertarian philosophy has been more timely?
No, absolutely not. I mean, there was a poll that just came out, I think yesterday, where a majority of Americans think both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are mentally unfit for office. A great opportunity for Joe Jorgensen. And, maybe that's not the case for other offices, but there's a real desire out there. And we libertarians, we're natural coalition builders. We're natural problem solvers. We're natural voices of reason and common sense. We're principled. We want a chance to show ourselves. And, we've got elected officials like Cair Schultz in Burnsville who demonstrate and practice what we preach and are able to deliver on things. And I think we need to have a lot more And we need to actually do a better job of telling the story of our incumbents and the amazing things that they were able to achieve. We've got a mayor in Ohio who was able to get marijuana decriminalized. Libertarian elected officials are able to do stuff like this. And we've got Jeff Hewitt out there who's telling story after story after story of the amazing things he's able to do in office there. And I'm hopeful over the next 2 years that you're going to hear a lot more stories.
Final thought. For a lot of folks, it's always been a talk about having that libertarian bench, developing that base of candidates.
Yeah.
After Dan and I doing this show now for 4 or 5 months, it's clear to me that bench is here now. We reflect on that for a second. Do we have to wait anymore for more great candidates to come around? They're here now.
Well, what we need is everything else. We need more people who know how and are willing to be treasurers. We need more people willing to go out and collect signatures and knock on doors. We need more people willing to phone bank. And it's my job as chair to help make sure that we have the infrastructure to support all of that. But ultimately, we need people willing to volunteer and do that. So, maybe for every stupid Facebook comment you post being angry at another libertarian, you have to knock on 10 doors. Or for every time you tweet about how angry you are at a libertarian saying something, you have to make 20 phone calls. And let's come up with some ratio here and get the incentives where they ought to be. And I'm all for carrots and incentives, and maybe we need some kind of Pokemon Go benefits and point system to encourage people to do stuff. We got lots of pins and bumper stickers and things we'll hand out if that's what it takes. But this is how you win elections, and this is how Democrats are trying hard to win elections. This is how Republicans are trying hard to win elections. We gotta talk to voters. We gotta talk about the issues they care about. That's exactly what Chris is doing here in Burnsville, and it's why I think he's got a great shot at being the next mayor.
We got 57 days to change the world, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we want to
Excellent.
wrap it up and get Chris the final word.
Yeah, Chris, one more time. One more set of shameless self-promotions.
Well, let's do it. Let's have a libertarian city, a city with a reasonable population that's majority libertarian. And let's show them what keeping government out of your life and letting free market dictate the way things go and staying true to libertarian principles. Let's show them what happens in a city over 4 years with all that in effect. And as people realize, man, this is a great city to live in. This is one of the best cities in America. Why? Because you have people staying out of your pockets, people staying out of your lives, and people not telling you what to do because they think they know what's best. And we watch that adults who are, I believe most people are good in nature. Most people believe that they are good in nature, for sure. Let's watch as these people are allowed to prosper. Let's watch as artists, entrepreneurs are allowed to grow as they see fit and aren't bound by the restrictions of local government who thinks that they know better. Let's see what happens in a libertarian run city. And I bet you that we see an amazing change in 4 years that people go, man, I really like living in a libertarian city. Let's push this to the next office.
Perfect. Folks, you've been listening to An Hour with the Candidates on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television. Executive producer Dan Fishman. I think you've met most of the party tonight, but a special thank you to Chris Van Cleeter.
One more quick thing. I just want to give a thank. We're not here alone. A lot of LNC members helped knock on doors for Chris today, and I do want to recognize each and every one of them by name. Karen Ann Harlos, me, Susan Hogarth, Matt Buckman, TJ Ferreira, Valerie Sarwark, Jeff Hewitt, David Valente, Stephen Nikela, Eric Raudsep. All of them were out in the rain today knocking on doors.
And the comedians who showed up to do a comedy show in the rain. John Russell, Tom Chilstrom, and Mike Early. If you guys are on YouTube or Facebook, look those guys up. They're hilarious friends of mine.
Folks, the theme of the last few weeks has been teamwork. You're seeing it here in the flesh. Join us. We'll see you next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend.